So today we have Nicholas Brockington with us. He is the. Could you let us know what you do in your company again?
Absolutely. As you aforementioned, my name is Nicholas Brockington. I am the owner of Karvungj, which is a fragrance company. I will be expanding into some other horizons in the near future. However, right now I will consider myself majorly a fragrance company.
Fragrance. So how did you get the idea for Karvungj?
Overall, I think about, I would probably, even take it back to years ago. Not even just, with me within these past 3 years or 4 years of me dealing with a lot. I would probably say like more so when I was younger, like maybe about 5 or 6 years old. I was always dressed and very appropriately or very nicely. A lot of ladies would always compliment how I was dressed, and so that kind of started when I was young. So the older that I got, I kind of got accustomed to that. So of course, I kind of took that into my particular character, and the older that I got, I started to care about my image. So I felt like that certain particular things that are transitioning, a lot of things that are transpiring within today. A lot of people are, kind of not caring more so about their image and more so caring about a lot of other things and kind of leaving out their image. So I wanted to make sure that people kind of preserve their image and make sure that it was, and also ensure that it's also something that is respectable. So I wanted to kind of continue that, and I felt like the best way for me to do that was to make sure that I focus on each component. And right now, I feel like the most important component to start off with is fragrance. So that's what I'm starting off with.
Excellent. So I see you have a lot of confidence in the way you dress, in the way that you portray your image. What kind of products or your services do you offer? I understand that you, of course, offer cologne, and maybe you could talk about the other things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So with me being from the South, I know that there's like a few things that a lot of people particularly, have emphasis on. It's either got to be sense, or sense. And so particularly though, when it comes to sense, you'll think like money, monetarily, like people would have to have that growing up in the household to be able to provide for themselves and to be able to sustain themselves throughout, their livelihoods. Of course, you would have to have sense, meaning that you would have to have some sort of like common knowledge or understanding about how to move yourself throughout life, and also have sense, meaning that you portray a particular thing in which you uphold a particular standard about yourself and ensure that other people know that you are at least a respectable individual. So to ensure that, I feel like all three of those arrays have to make sure that they're aligned, or at least you must have one of those. And so growing up in the South, I feel like that was more of an emphasis for me, and I felt like that I wanted to use those components and make sure that I kind of fulfill those in every exponential way that I could. And the best way for me to do that was to focus on each component particularly and make sure that I put it to the right level that it was needed for a respectable image.
All right, that sounds great. So you mentioned you come from the South, and that's kind of where your sense of style comes from.
Absolutely.
Could you tell us perhaps exactly where you're from and what kind of things you borrow from there, perhaps?
Yeah. So I'm from South Carolina, which is, if most people don't know where South Carolina is, it's like right below North Carolina. But usually a lot of people would consider that region, including Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and whatnot, to be a region of etiquette. A lot of people consider etiquette to be one thing that a lot of traditions carry, a lot of cultures carry, and a lot of people want to make sure that they can be able to sustain throughout generations to come. And one thing that I've been very hound about is generational wealth. I want to make sure that not only I'm getting rich and getting money and being able to sustain my own livelihood, but my children and my children's children, and just for generations to come, I want to make sure that I'm sustaining something that is worthwhile. So and to enable that, I felt like the best thing for me to do was to do things that would last for years to come. And dealing with other people, I felt that like more so of etiquette is kind of that thing that a lot of people know about but not necessarily know how to do. I mean, there's two different things. You can know about something but not know exactly how to operate it. So I wanted to make sure that people had the opportunity, and when I say people, I'm specifically speaking on men, because I know that men have a disarray from a lot of that, because they feel that etiquette is more so of something that is not really pertaining to them particularly. And I want to make sure that men understand that it's important, like for attraction purposes. Ladies love it when a man knows how to takes care of himself, take care of other things around, and is real neat and clean. So of course, to be a dapper individual, I wanted to make sure that other men understood the importance behind that. And so, etiquette has always been one of the biggest things to me, especially coming from the South. Hospitable vibes. I wanted to make sure that other people, if I, invited you to my home, you understood that I would give you, that genuine hospitable vibe, versus, you going somewhere else and you're not feeling that type of environment only because, that's not what you're used to. But etiquette kind of teaches you that tradition. And so I wanted to sustain that.
So, understanding from you that you want to perhaps promote this image that comes from clean attire. What's perhaps the impression that you're trying to promote with your brand?
Yeah, so when it comes to impression is one favorable thing that I feel like a lot of people want to make sure that they solidify when they first meet you. Like if I first meet a person, I want to make sure that you understand me correctly, because people usually classify like individuals to a certain category based off of certain things that they receive from you when they first meet you. So the impression, I feel like, is something that sustains. No matter how you are as a person, or who you are, impression sustains. Like the first impression is the lasting impression. It's a statement for a reason. So I wanted to make sure that impression is something that sustains for a good impression more so than a bad impression. And the best way to do that is, of course, to make sure that when you encounter someone, they encounter you with the right presentation.
So, you as a guy who's been all about the clean looks,
Yeah.
um, coming from South Carolina, so what was your initial mission at the onset of starting this business? What were you trying to get across to people?
Yeah, so like one thing that I started to realize, I feel like a lot of people talk about common sense. Common sense is one thing that a lot of people talk about. They say, a lot of people don't have common sense, or a lot of people don't have, common knowledge. So I feel like a lot of people have varied themselves or distanced themselves away from what we consider to be common knowledge or common sense, simply because they've gotten so far away from what we have as a natural barrier. Meaning, like for instance, that we all have five senses. So you can smell, you can touch, you can see. All of these things are part of your natural senses. So a lot of times, a part of that, we seem to not hone in on those particular things that are God given to us. As far as memory is concerned, a lot of people think that like visually, if I see something, I might remember it. Like for instance, when you were cheating on your test, you probably were thinking, if I see the answer, I might remember it and I can write the answer down. But usually, as far as memory is concerned, smell is probably one of the most prominent out of all of our five senses. So, and most people either know that or don't know that. So if they do know that, then they probably kind of associate like how a person smells, or how something smells, how food smells, or how an object smells with how they will remember it in the future. With a lot of other things, you probably might forget it because I don't remember touching that, or it's commonly said, or I don't remember seeing that. That's something that you saw, but you really don't remember or recall seeing that. And the reason as to why is because your memory is largely composed of the things that you smell. So our olfactory senses are really, really strong and powerful, more so than our other senses. So I wanted to make sure that people understood each component of that when it comes to common sense and understanding exactly how you can be able to present yourself in a well manner.
That's great. That's great. I love how your brand focuses especially on the sense of smell, and
Absolutely.
it's great that I understand why it's so important. Um, Maybe could you describe the business that you have in a sentence?
Yeah.
Just the
So
most important thing, I
yeah,
guess.
you say in a sentence.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So in a sentence, I would probably say most definitely being able to exponentially elevate yourself, and also being able to authentically create that version of yourself which is more sincere to who you truly are.
Okay.
A lot of people have this understanding as to where they feel that they need to uh, portray a particular behavior or portray a particular image because they feel as though that is what is accepted from society. However, most people don't understand that you are the only person that is like you. You know, I won't ever meet another person like you. So, your most authentic version is probably what the earth needs. We need more people that are authentic more so than more people who are standardized, if you understand what that means.
I think I do. So you offer this personalized image to lots of people.
Yeah.
How would you say that they differ from each other if you offer the same thing to a lot of people? How do you personalize it to each individual?
Well, so one thing that I've always, believed in is that, you know, no experience will ever be
Experience
the
will
same.
ever be the same. My experience with you may be different versus my experience with Rick. If I have an experience with Rick over here, Rick, experience it may be totally different from what he tells me that he had in terms of his enjoyment or his experience with the company versus what you may have potentially. But that same type of token is taken because everything is pretty much a two-way channel. So how you experience things is not how Rick experienced things. But at the same token, it's so that you know um, every individual experience is appreciated, or every individual experience is more so valued, because a lot of people feel as though if you don't meet a certain bar or you don't meet a certain type of quota, then pretty much you're not you're not you haven't met a particular standard, or just within that regard. So I wanted to make sure that people understood that an individual experience is something that is very much so valued from this company, and the way that you value that is by understanding that, okay, I need to understand the characteristics, the qualities, what it is that you're interested in, because everyone is different.
I see. Yeah, I think that's very important. I agree with you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so once again, maybe you could just say what your mission is in terms of just one sentence.
Yeah,
Just the
yeah.
most important part.
Yeah, so I would probably kind of like concisely say that like based off of everything that I'm offering and everything that I would in the future, I would say that we complement the supply and you supply the complement. And the way that that means to me means that um, you are a valued individual, and with you being a valued man and understanding that you want to be a distinguished gentleman, you know exactly what it is that you carry, and certain traits and certain values and characteristics that you have, and we want to make sure that we can complement that, meaning that we can add to that, or um, as I would say, square it, exponentially elevate it. So in order to do that, I feel like the best way for a lot of people to be able to get to that way is to make sure that they understand that we are the complementer, but you supply the complement for understanding that as we are complimenting you, you are actually giving us the compliment, saying, "Hey, thank you for doing that. Thank you for allowing me to be able to see more of myself truly than I've seen before."
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Nicholas, for talking to me today.
would be my relation between Chicago and where I came from and how my business relates?
So how? So I don't. What do you? Why are you in Chicago? I guess.
Yeah. So like the fact that you're asking that is the reason why I want to go ahead and address that.
Okay.
So the reason why I came to Chicago was because doing like a lot of like different research and understanding about areas, I feel like regionally you should understand exactly the structure behind the purpose and why this area was originated and how does that play into a part today. Because I know that like a lot of people wouldn't go to Wisconsin or Colorado for agriculture, like particularly most.
Colorado for agriculture. What the hell is there for agriculture?
Right. You understand
No,
what
no,
I'm
no.
saying?
But there, I don't think there's any agriculture going on in Colorado. I'm just saying.
Right, and that's the point. That's the point. So the reason as to why no one would go to Colorado for agriculture
Okay.
would be because agriculture is usually in South Carolina or agriculture is usually in those southern regions.
Sure.
So the reason why people know that is because how it was originated, and they know the history behind those particular states. So
Okay.
that's kind of the reason as to why I started doing research about what certain areas were notable for. And Chicago was notable for artistic views and also a lot of cultural views as well. So I wanted to kind of like continue that into the northern regions, even though I came from the southern regions.
Okay. Maybe you could say
Southern gentlemen.
Southern gentleman.
Southern gentlemen. Um, Most people who do come from the South have at least some type of reservoir for respect and manners. Respect and manners have been one of the things that have been taught throughout the South and continued in terms of making sure that people understand that that can take you a lot further than anything else could. And because that's taught as tradition in the South, it kind of calls a lot of individuals to understand that, hey, even if I can't give you, economical funds or economical means, then I can definitely give you respect. I can give you manners. I can give you those things that, are invaluable. So, since that is taught there, a lot of people have carried that to, the time that they've gotten older. So, of course, when it comes to religious views and, how people feel about, spirituality, that kind of plays a part into that as well. So a lot of people look at, how a lot of structure is with when it comes to their morals and values that they carry a lot of those traditions into that as well, those family values. Because it is very much so, I would consider, personally, I would say that family oriented comes more so from a southern region than it would a northern region. And the reason why I would say that is because usually northern regions are much more faster paced, where people may leave the house at 18 and usually don't come back to their family until 30 years old. Like I've seen it happen. So with that being an occurrence, a lot of people want to make sure that if you are a notable southern gentleman, that you kind of continue those particular values.
All right. Cool. So yeah, now I'm kind of want to bring this all together and ask you a few of these questions.
Yeah.
So so maybe you could talk more about how you found your style in the beginning. How did you come up with the whole idea of promoting this?
So my particular style is very versatile. Um, I wouldn't necessarily say that there is a particular um, taste or a sector to exactly what I present, because I feel like the image can be very much so mutable to anything. Like for instance, I can go in this particular arena and have success. I can go in this arena and have success. And the reason as to why that is because it is something that is renowned. It's something that no matter where you go, it will be respected because everyone wants to enjoy that. Everyone wants to have respect. Everyone wants to feel respected and also give respect. To have that communal exchange is something that a lot of people warrant. And once they get that, they understand that this is something I can feel comfortable with. And now that I've, met someone that I can feel comfortable with, I feel as though I can begin to feel, a little bit more relatable. I can build a friendship. I can build a relationship with this individual because now I feel as though, I can be a little bit more relative to them. Um, a lot of people are more inclined to want to deal with a lot more people who are more respectable, more so than less respectable. And so, that's kind of as to where I feel as though, I kind of pinpoint exactly where I try to be. So in terms of presentation and how I present myself to other people, behavior wise, that's what it would be. But in terms of, clothing and, my atmosphere that I create, I want to make sure that people understand, the difference in between someone who is dynamic and the difference between someone who is charismatic. And I would be more so along the lines of charismatic. And I would definitely love to explain a little bit more of that if you have the time.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, so charismatic to me is more of a person who has a spontaneity about them, but at the same time, it is able to have that structured edge and able to have that structured standard. And a lot of people who provide charisma have character about them. You have to have energy about you. You have to have something that invigorates the next person. Dynamics means that at any cost, it might be something that you kind of excite, or something that you kind of um, you kind of do a little bit of I don't know, excite. It's pretty much kind of the best relative word I could say with dynamic. So anyone who is a dynamic person is probably a loud person, or someone who you would consider an extrovert. But anyone who is above those lines would understand the difference in between those two different subsidies, only if they understand exactly what it means to have character.
I see. Interesting. So uh, you're a self-ascribed Southern gentleman. So I have to ask,
Yeah, yeah.
what brings you to Chicago?
Yeah, so I love the way you say that, self-ascribed. I mean, honestly, I would probably say self-ascribed because I'm not in Time magazine, I'm not in Vogue magazine, I'm not in none of these magazines. Even though since I've been in Chicago, I will tell you, three people, like as soon as I walked out from my hotel, have told me, they was like, man, you look like you stepped out from a magazine. You look so suave, man. Hey, stay smooth. I continuously heard that. So I was like, okay, all right. So at some point I have to, kind of reconcile within myself. Maybe, that may have some truth to it. So I wanted to make sure that people understood exactly, what it was that I was kind of standing for. And I feel like here in Chicago, since it's more of an artistic, has an artistic edge, or has more of that window for creativity. I wanted to kind of like continue that from from the south, in which I come from, to something that could be very relative to another region in which I wasn't really prominently known. No one knows me here in Chicago, not at all. So I wanted to make sure that people understood exactly, and I was taking a risk, but I wanted to make sure that people exactly knew, when I'm traveling, what a Southern gentleman is, and can understand that from other regions. Okay, well, I would never know what someone from New York is like if I've always lived in Alabama and never been to New York. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that's the whole purpose in me, traveling about this.
So you talk about how your style generally comes from this southern area where you were brought up in.
Right.
Maybe you could talk more about your upbringing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I think the best way to describe my upbringing would be, um, in one word, thankful. Being thankful. Um, and that's not necessarily speaking on any type of particular circumstances, or any particular type of encounters, experiences, or any of that. It's more so speaking on the type of values that I was taught, and coming from a region in which a lot of respect and manners are divvied out. A lot of people would understand the importance behind being thankful, and so I feel as though every day I had a reminder, because I would see people, and I know that here in Chicago and New York and a lot of northern states, you would see or northern cities rather, you would see like a lot of people who don't have homes, or a lot of people who don't have places to go to, a lot of people who can't uphold a particular image about themselves only because they don't know how to do it. So I feel as though being in a place where I can give you Southern comfort, but at the same time give you that tradition of being able to have manners, have hospitable vibes, have respect for anyone, and like and giving people opportunity first before giving judgment. I feel as though that's more important to be able to give than it is for anything else. And so I feel as though growing up in the South, that was something that was continuously pretty much taught. Yeah.
So you've said
Yeah.
so you've said about you being thankful as your driver. Are you religious at all?
Uh, yeah, I would probably say, being thankful is something that is most definitely uh, connected, or, more considered with what you would call like religious views. However, I'm not really like a big person to say, um, I'm, extremely like religious. However, I do have a structure. I do have a structure, and the structure that I have is coming from my background. My grandfather was a pastor, and today he's still a pastor. He pastors a church, and that pretty much kind of gave me a background into understanding who God is, and how God plays a part in my life. And so understanding morals and values, and being taught that at an early age kind of gave me insight on certain things that are related to religion, and understanding the difference in between how things are presented from other people's point of view, and also how it can be presented from my own point of view.
I see. So, given what you talked about today, I see you have a great vision for the future of your brand,
Yeah.
and you have a clear path. Maybe you could tell me what are your plans with regards to the brand, with any new products you're coming up with?
Absolutely, man. Indeed. For sure. I would definitely say that in the future holds nothing but a whole bunch of jewels. Most definitely, a whole bunch of jewels for those who are definitely along the lines of understanding what it means to be um, exponentially elevated, or exponentially squared, as I like to say. So in the future, I like I said, I'm starting off with this one component, meaning fragrance is what I'm kind of wanting to concentrate more so on at the current moment. However, in the future, I will be moving on to fashion.